Hi there. Today is Friday, November 6th, and this is a special edition of Friday 5 at 5 with Denver Public Library. My name is Lainey. I'm a librarian at DPL's downtown central location, and in 15 minutes or less, we'll have you up to speed on 5 new titles we can't wait for you to read or listen to. Our focus this episode, Indigenous Voices, in honor of Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month. Introducing Social Distancing, a small online publication of art, writing, and other creative works by the Denver community that reflects our lives in the time of COVID-19. We at DPL believe there is power in taking a moment to meditate on the weight of the times in which we find ourselves, and that creative expression helps us stay connected to ourselves and to each other. View our latest issue and learn how to submit to our next one at the link below. Now on to this week's special lineup. Love After the End, an anthology of Two-Spirit and indigiqueer speculative fiction edited by Joshua Whitehead, is our first title today. Print book coming soon, ebook available on Overdrive. In the introduction to this collection of sci-fi and fantasy short fiction by Indigenous authors, Whitehead reflects on the intersection between indigeneity and queerness. How does queer indigeneity upset or upend queerness? Are we queerer than queer, he asks? In the stories he gathers here, readers will discover bioengineered AI rats, transplanted trees in space, the rise of a 2SQ, that is Two-Spirit and Queer Resistance Camp, a primer on how to survive indigiqueerly, virtual reality applications, motherships at sea, and the bending of space-time continuums. Love After the End demonstrates the imaginatively queer two-spirit futurisms many have been waiting for since 1492. Says Whitehead, I hope that people leave this anthology knowing that we have lived in haunted houses, torturing machines, kennels, and death chambers, and have always emerged into newer and richer horizons of possibility. I hope they see that there are multiple worlds behind, beside, and between us. We simply need to step into those lateral literary zones of being in order to encompass a life worth loving and defending. For more Indigenous tales, check out Read, Listen, Tell, Indigenous Stories from Turtle Island, and Richard Van Camp's Moccasin Square Gardens. At number 2, we have Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, on Overdrive in ebook and audio formats, print book available, and CD audio on order. Roanhorse captivates once again in this first installment in a vividly original new fantasy series, interwoven with the threads of the powerful spirits of the pre-contact indigenous peoples of the U.S. Southwest, Mexico, and Central and South America. She imagines for us the world of the Sky Maid clans, their powerful priests, and a boy who would hold a god inside himself to bring about a people's rebellion. The winter solstice in the holy city of Tova usually means a time for celebration and renewal, but there's an exception this time. The year's solstice converges with the solar eclipse, and this is a rare celestial event that presages an unbalancing of the world. Ziala, a disgraced teak, someone who has the power to calm waters through their song, must deliver a supposedly harmless passenger named Serapio by the time of the convergence. A tale of destiny, prophecies, sacrifice, and dark magic, and one filled with individuals struggling to do their best to fulfill the roles they've been given. Audio listeners will delight in the full cast narration. Each voice is distinct, driving the story forward to an explosive ending. For fans of N.K. Jemison's The 100,000 Kingdoms and Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. At number 3, we have Little Big Bully by HEIDE Erdrich, on Overdrive as an ebook, print book coming soon. A rich, challenging, and rewarding new collection of verse from a celebrated poet. While Erdrich, who is Ojibwe enrolled at Turtle Mountain, invokes the particular knowledge and experiences of indigenous peoples throughout her poems, this collection, as the author's notes indicate, is crafted for various audiences, both native Ojibwe and others. Indeed, Erdrich's central effort to understand the mechanics of abuse in its many manifestations identifies a particularly urgent challenge of the contemporary moment for settlers and native people alike. Little Big Bully engages with physical and sexual abuse, as well as abuses of native communities and the natural world. The poems evince anger, but also rise with conviction and hope. With incisive intelligence and revelatory wordplay, Erdrich examines the mechanisms of abuse, from the colonizers who grabbed land to the men today who grab women's bodies. Of note, Erdrich is the Poem a Day guest editor for the Academy of American Poets for the month of November. Details at the link below, and you can find several of Erdrich's poems there as well. Poetry lovers can find more like this in Cassandra Lopez's collection Brother Bullet and Vincent Toro's Tertulia. Next, we have A History of My Brief Body by Billy Ray Belcourt, which we have available in print. Engaging with time in a fluid manner, A History of My Brief Body moves through physical experience without narrating from one experience to the next in a chronological story. Instead, it moves conceptually, like a poem. This is a book that resists distillation, embracing instead the contradictions of triumphing over oppression by honoring joy and desire. Flickering through lyric essays that function as chapters, Belcourt centers queer and indigenous thought as he braids theoretical and literary references with vignettes from a sex life brokered online. Quoting theory and favored writers such as Layli Long Soldier and Gwen Benaway, Belcourt seeks to transcend the landscape of inadequate and improperly constructed housing, overcrowding, state mismanagement of funds, ecological harms, intergenerational trauma, and so on, that has created the ongoing rash of suicides by Indigenous youth, whom he addresses directly. A History of My Brief Body is a brave, raw, and fiercely intelligent collection of essays on grief, colonial violence, joy, love, and unabashed queerness. For readers of Ocean Vuong, Maggie Nelson, and Heartberries by Therese Marie Myatt. At number 5 this time, Winter Counts by David HESKA WANBLI WEIDEN. Available in print and on CD audio, ebook and e-audio formats on Overdrive. Winter Counts is a once-in-a-generation thriller, an unforgettable debut set in and around South Dakota's Rosebud Indian Reservation. Brimming with complex characters, believable conflicts, and an urgent message about Native culture, inequities, and criminal justice. The propulsive story of Virgil Wounded Horse, an HESKA, or mixed blood enforcer, who battles the influx of drugs into the reservation. Winter Counts is also, according to its author, a born and raised Denverite, one of only a handful of thrillers by an Indigenous writer. Weiden is an enrolled citizen of the Sicangu Lakota Nation, with family still on the Rosebud Reservation. He's also an associate professor of Native American Studies and Political Science at Metro State. Go Roadrunners! Winter Counts is a Native thriller, an examination of the broken criminal justice system on reservations, and a meditation on Native identity. Note, too, that audio narrator Daryl Dennis is from the Shewepem Nation in British Columbia. Attikalak's Highway 59 series offers similar twists and turns from another Own Voices perspective. You can hear more about this book by signing up for a free webcast courtesy of Southern California's Glendale Library, scheduled for November 30th. Details at the link below. Plus, in case you missed it, check out As Long as Grass Grows, the Indigenous Fight for Environmental Justice from Colonization to Standing Rock by DINA GILIO-WHITAKER. Available on Overdrive as an ebook and audiobook, print book also available. Standing Rock is only the latest episode in the more than 500-year history of European incursions and occupation of the Americas, says scholar GILIO-WHITAKER. A citizen of the Colville Confederated Tribes, she's a lecturer of American Indian Studies at California State University, San Marcos, and a consultant and educator in environmental justice policy planning. This book is a primer on the Native environmental movement and a chronicle of Indigenous peoples fighting back against government and corporate power, with varying degrees of success. To be born American Indian today is to have survived a Holocaust of a very particular kind, one whose evidence is everywhere all the time, GILIO-WHITAKER writes. She maintains that settler colonialism and the Industrial Revolution set into motion a series of environmental effects that have been detrimental to the health of Native peoples for centuries, and that are exacerbated today by climate change. Native people, she writes, have survived because of their ability to creatively resist, adapt, and meet the challenges modernity has thrown at them. Everyone should read this book. Failing that, every environmentalist should read this book. Read along with Tony Jensen's Carrie, a memoir of survival on stolen land, Winona LaDuke's Recovering the Sacred, and Stephanie Woodard's American Apartheid. And that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in to Denver Public Library's special Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month edition of Friday 5 at 5. Check out or place a hold on these titles and a whole lot more right now at denverlibrary.org/downloads, link below. And be sure to tune in later this month for a whole new batch of recommended reads.